British.
Hello.
British. Hello. I'm Gray.
We're not British.
Oh. No.
Welcome back to the Swagcast, episode 3.
Episode something.
3.
I'm Gray.
We're in a different setting
Whoa.
because there's people at this one's house.
Yeah.
I thought we were introducing ourselves.
I'm Cha0tic.
I'm Gray.
And I'm Ultra.
Today's topic, conspiracy theories, but specifically, I don't know the word for it. I've just been calling it, humanitarian conspiracy theories.
It's not the spooky ones, it's just ones that could be true. I went British
Ones
again.
regarding humanity, which is why I'm calling it humanitarian, because that's what that means.
So the first one we got is the glitch in the Matrix.
Glitch in the Matrix / Mandela effect.
Yeah.
Very closely related there. A little bit of a trigger warning for derealization for this topic.
We're sorry. I'm sorry. Do you guys know anything about it?
A little bit.
Not
what?
a whole lot. I mean, I've heard of
I know,
it, but I know.
Mandela effect is when you could have sworn something was one way, but then
Yeah.
you look into it and it's lie, you're
the,
wrong.
The Bernstein Bears or something. Those books. The name of it. It's Bernstein, but a lot of people. It's
Remember,
actually Bernstein or something.
Berenstain Bears.
Something like
Something
that.
Well, the glitch in the Matrix, it's like a glitch in the universe, so technically
Yeah.
we all live in the simulator. So it's it's scripted out. That's why when you search up glitches in the Matrix, you get videos of airplanes in the sky but staying still, or birds staying still.
Well, I mean, I think birds, there's an explanation for the birds ones, is that, it's when they, hit an air pocket or whatever.
Yeah.
Or something. There's an explanation for the birds ones, but the planes, I don't know if there's an explanation for that.
Yeah, because there was this one video where I saw, and it was, this dude, climbing upstairs and, going to an elevator.
Yeah.
But then he, backtracks, and there's supposed to be, a wall there. But he backtracks and he climbs over the wall, and there was no wall there to begin with. So it's it was kind of
God
weird.
damn.
I have it
Somewhere.
There's another one where it's the sky where it's you know how when the when it's sunset but it's the dark but there's still light in the sky.
Yeah.
That type, and then right after it just switches to dark. And it's
crazy.
I guess it's also where deja vu happens, where it's you you feel it has happened when it actually hasn't happened. I have so many times where I've had deja vu. It's crazy.
Yeah.
There's a thing where it's there's a blue pill and a red pill. So if you take the blue pill, it's the story ends and you video game ends, you go back to your normal life,
Yeah.
back it happens, and then the red pill is stay in Wonderland, stay in that world, in current reality. It's kind of it's kind of
And
spooky.
what? I mean, that probably goes more into, the movies and stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, in real life, you're probably not ever going to be presented with red pill and a blue pill.
Yeah, but it's more a movie based, but still,
Yeah.
it's spooky. You were talking about how yesterday, your story on the bus.
Oh yeah, back when I still rode the bus and was in school, the bus took a turn or whatever, and my brother was in the seat next to me, and I guess I put my arm out because I guess he probably started sliding out of the seat or for whatever reason, so put my arm out to stop him. But I have absolutely zero memory of it, but everyone's that literally happened, you did that, and I'm I literally have no clue what you're talking about. This kid that was sitting in front of us was yeah, you did that, and even Heath was that literally happened, but just absolutely zero memory of it in my brain at all.
Crazy.
And I literally was I don't know what just happened. My memory just completely blacked out.
Do you have any experiences?
You seen any glitches in the Matrix?
Deja vu, anything happened? I've had shit tons of deja vu.
Yeah, deja vu is something that is like extremely common.
Yeah.
For most recent one that has happened to me is when I was testing, and it was when we had to do work keys, and we were testing, you know, like, no, it wasn't. It was, I was taking M-step or something. I don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
But what was one of the testing ones, and you know, I get done with my test because, you know, I'm like trying to get over it. I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. And then I'm done, and then I'm reading my book, and I start writing and annotating. I'm like, wait the fucking minute. Didn't I just have a dream about, like, didn't, like, this happened already?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I swear I've had a dream about it. Like, it did happen. I'm like, what the fuck? I don't know. It's just a whack thing. It's
It
just,
is whack. Pretty wacky. Pretty whack.
no, maybe this isn't real. We're just all dreaming about it.
Shut the fuck up.
Personally, I like to believe that this is just a story being told to a little kid as they're falling asleep.
When every time I like to think about, like, our lives is like, it's being filmed.
So like Truman Show kind
Yeah.
of shit.
Like, oh, this is actually a movie, and we're just repeating it. We're just repeating life. It's just a cycle. It's a dream. It's a nightmare. Wake up.
Gonna make
Wake
me have
up.
to put a derealization trigger warning on this video. God damn.
Sorry, guys.
Pacific.
Pacific Cooler. By Pacific, not Atlantic. Atlantis. Our next theory. You like my transition there?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess now we're talking about the lost city of Atlantis. Most people, you know, it's just like a word, you know, to people. It's like, yeah, it's a city underwater that is lost, and that's all they know about it. But there is actually a story behind it. Created by Plato.
You have a book.
Not
Okay.
Play-Doh, but Plato. So the story of Atlantis, I'm just gonna sum it up. It's described as a naval empire that had conquered all western parts of the known world at that time. And after a failed attempt to conquer ancient Athens, Atlantis fell out of favor with the, like, I'm assuming Greek deities, and was submerged into the Atlantic Ocean, hence the name Atlantis. So Atlantis was first mentioned by Plato, and there are also no written records that exist outside of Plato's dialogue for Atlantis. So, which leads a lot of people to believe that Atlantis never actually existed, and that Plato just invented it, and was a story of Plato's ideal civilization, telling a cautionary tale of the gods punishing humans' hubris. You guys know what hubris is?
No.
No idea.
So it's pretty much one thing about a person that is, like, their fault. It is, like, what will pretty much cause their demise.
Mm.
So, like, if you go into, like, Greek mythology, like, Narcissus, he was obsessed with himself, which eventually will get him killed.
Yeah.
That's what a hubris is. It's, like, your one thing, like, your main thing that you, like, care so much about that will end in your downfall.
Like, oh, what's his name? That, like, he, like, was selfish or something, so then
He asked
everything,
for gold.
everything he touched
Midas.
turned into gold,
Yeah.
and it got to the point where he, like, literally couldn't eat.
King Midas, yeah. He was, like, self-obsessed with him, or, like, whatever. He was greedy.
Mm-hmm.
Then that's what his hubris was, is that he was greedy.
And he died.
And then he died because he couldn't eat food, because if he touched it, it would turn to gold.
Yeah.
I guess for, like, what I know is that I'm gonna bring the science into it. It's that it was actually, like, a real, you know, whole thing. And because how we see the one city in Italy, it's not Venus, it's
Venice?
Venice, that one. how
Venus.
how it's, like, gonna sink because of global warming, and how, like, the waters,
Isn't,
it's
like, part of Florida sinking?
I don't know.
but it's sinking, and where everyone's like, oh, this is what happened with Atlantis. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it was a normal city, like, inland, but all because of, like, sea levels rising and global warming, it actually sank, and that's why.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Going into like people like actually trying to find it, obviously there've been like plenty of like reports of people saying they found stuff. You know, being like, oh, I found it. So a lot of that kind of stuff like will constantly come up, but there's actually never been any conclusive evidence. So it's just kind of been like people saying it, but there's no like actual proof of it.
It's like word to word.
Yeah. It actually was previously proposed that it was located on the Greek island of Santorin. I apologize if I say any of these wrong. The Italian island of Sardinia or Cyprus. However, recent research shows it may be found between Spain and Morocco waters in Cadiz. So they're thinking it's, I guess, more
Europe.
western, more towards the west than east.
Like, imagine you're just chilling and then you find Atlantis.
That would be insane, but like I know with modern technology they still haven't been able to like find anything. But you think, you know, this was like Greek back, you know, way back then. And if it sank all the way back then, I mean, you'd think it would be like, cause you know, there's like tectonic plates and stuff, and everything's moving. So I mean, you could think like even if it like got buried under sand or something.
Yeah.
Like, because there's always, you know, things are always getting picked up down there and stuff, so it's like lost in the sand. But you know, talking about it being like buried and stuff, there's actually a theory that Atlantis was what we now know as Antarctica. Is that it was more you know, like normal, livable there, but then something happened and then it got all icy, frozen over, and now it's buried under all the ice.
I don't want to believe that one.
I don't either. But it's all theory. I mean, there's
no real evidence.
All we know about Atlantis is from Plato and his stuff.
This could be just a story that they say to like children.
Yeah, which is what I was saying earlier. It could have never existed. It could have Plato just could have made it up.
What was it, like Shakespeare? Not like Shakespeare. It's
like Shakespeare.
No, there's like a actual how they thought like Shakespeare was like a group of people or just like one person.
Yeah, because like oh god, I remember hearing this because we had to research him when we were doing fucking Hamlet.
Yeah.
We had to research him and stuff because our teacher made us, and he's like, yo, he could have, you know, just been not real.
It could have just been like a name everyone wrote under.
Yeah.
Going back to Atlantis, obviously the most common theory is that it's a mid-Atlantic continent that just suddenly went boom.
Yeah.
You know, simple as that. A mid-Atlantic continent that sank. That's the most like widely accepted theory for it. There's also another theory that it was like even more western, like by the Bermudas, and that it was swallowed by the Bermuda Triangle.
I love that. That's so
Because I mean,
fascinating.
we don't really know where in the Atlantic Ocean. We just that would still be the Atlantic.
Like, there's still parts of the ocean we haven't discovered.
So much of the ocean isn't discovered.
It's like 90-some%, I think.
Someone grab a phone.
As far as we're aware, it could be somewhere in that undiscovered, like 90%.
More than 80%.
80%, close enough.
At least 80%. There's more of it that is undiscovered, but
That's why, like, one of my fears is, like, the deep seas, because, like, you don't know what the fuck is down there, because there's only so many percent of it has been discovered.
That's why I'm such a firm believer that the Megalodon's still around. I could have talked about that, goddammit.
No, we were saving that for a different episode. So there's still also, like, two other, pretty common theories. One being that Atlantis itself is fictional, but is a retelling of the Black Sea flood. The Black Sea like happened way more before like ancient Greek culture. It was about half the size that it is like now, or that it was then, and then it like flooded. Going off memory what I read. Because then I think like civilization started flourishing around it because now there's like double the water.
Yeah.
And stuff. And then the last one is that Atlantis is the story of the Minoan civilization who just like suddenly disappeared.
Yeah.
Because what I think in that area, there was like a volcano and there was like an earthquake around that time, and they believe that like the volcanic eruption like covered it. That's all I got on Atlantis.
That's all you got on Atlantis?
Yeah.
Do we want to continue with the theme of things not being real? This is personally my favorite, totally stupid theory ever.
Need a stupid theory to balance out the genuine ones.
Australia's not real.
That's what we're titling the episode. Australia's not real. There we go.
Okay, so the one I heard like 5,000 years ago when I first discovered this theory, I couldn't find anywhere.
It's just like gone.
It's just
like
gone.
Australia.
Like Australia.
No, like Atlantis. It's just gone.
It's just not there anymore. Like I read, I think like 3-4 articles this morning trying to find this exact theory, and I couldn't find it.
I know we were on call.
It was very upsetting. But the theory that I could find information on is that it's a cover-up story for the British government.
Wow.
Okay, so apparently, like, 5,000 years ago or whatever, like, a long time ago, the British government killed all of the prisoners on Australia or something. No, they killed all of their prisoners. And they, instead of, like, being like, yeah, we killed them, because they didn't want people to know, they just told them they were going to Australia.
Wow.
They're just
Lovely.
like, it's fine, it's okay, they're going to Australia, everything's okay, they're still alive. Apparently they weren't. So that's a very popular theory, is like, they sent these prisoners to Australia, but what they didn't tell anyone is that they just killed them while they were at sea. Like, one theory says that they threw them off of the boat and just left them there to drown.
Oh, that's fun.
Another theory kind of goes into, like, the flat earth. And it's just, like, they just sailed over the edge of the world.
Okay.
Okay.
They just had them go over the edge and they just fell off and died in the abyss.
Alright.
Which is, you know, super interesting. And that's, like, basically it. It became really popular in, like, 2006. And it has a Facebook page that has, like, 22,000 people following it.
Oh my god.
And they have, like, a fake island that they call Australia, and they have, like, paid actors to tell people they're Australian.
Imagine telling people that's your job. I pretend to be Australian.
All right, then,
How much? What's your salary to get paid to be Australian?
All right, then, man.
1,000 per person that believes it.
God.
And then there's just like, yeah, and then apparently all the plane pilots are in on it too. And they're like, so like, if you tell people you've gone to Australia, technically you're lying about it. 'Cause I guess it just doesn't exist.
Yeah, sorry guys. Pearlescent Moon just doesn't exist. She's lying. She's an actor.
Yeah. Same thing with Five Sauce. They just aren't Australian, actually.
They're just lying to you.
They are. But they'll fly over other islands that would roughly be the same size, apparently, and drop you off there. Or, like, some people claim that they went to, like, one of this part of, like, South America, and that's apparently Australia.
Oh my my god.
This is like the weird.
Go from like about serious Atlantis to Australia's not real.
And like apparently they like bought a bunch of islands or something and just cleared it out of all of its natural shit and put fake shit in there. So when people do go there,
they put big ass spiders in there.
they're like, "This is Australia." For
Here's
sure.
a kangaroo. It's Australia. You know you're in Australia when there's a kangaroo.
But that's the one I found. That's not the one I heard.
All right.
The one I heard, I'm going to talk about. I didn't write it down. I remember it off the top of my head. Is apparently the real Australia is too dangerous.
So they just made like a tourist version of Australia.
So they have it hidden somewhere. So the one you go to when you go to Australia is fake. It's the fake
It's
Australia.
like a man-made Australia.
It's like a man-made Australia. And it's supposed to be like, look how scary Australia is. Look at the gigantic spiders. Everything there can kill you. Now imagine going to the real Australia. So apparently the real Australia is like so deadly and so dangerous that they're just like, humans should never exist here. Let's make a fake one to scare them away.
Let's make a fake one so they can still say they've gone to Australia, but without dying.
Yeah. So basically the real Australia is fake. Either way you put it, just one is more stupid than the other. So yeah, Australia is fake. It's my favorite one ever.
It's not real, guys.
It's not real. I'm sorry. If
Any Australian person you've met, they're lying to you.
They're
they
not
are,
real.
and they said that in the interview too.
They're part of the government.
Being
Like in the
Australian.
first one, it's like it was like originally a lie to like tell the families that they just couldn't see their family members that were imprisoned
They
again.
just made up a place.
They're just like, yeah, they're going to Australia. And then it just, like, got to the point where so many people believed that Australia was a place that these prisoners went to that they just kept going with it. Otherwise, they would have been called out for liars and monsters.
Because you hear, like, news. I told this to you, like, this morning. You hear news, like, everywhere, like, you know, like, happening around the world. But what the fuck is happening in Australia? Nobody knows what's happening in Australia.
Have you heard anything that's happening in Australia?
Proves my point.
Oh, not too. I forget when it was. It was like 2020, and there was like they were having like those big Australian fires or something.
I remember that. But
Really
like,
bad
Maybe it was a
fires.
malfunction.
all the animals are animatronics. One of them accidentally caught on fire and started burning down everything.
I laughed so hard it went up my nose. I hate that feeling.
Speaking about cover-ups.
We're having some great transitions this episode.
Walt Disney being frozen. Any of you know anything about Walt Disney being frozen?
Isn't there like a few versions of it? Like the one that I think I always remember hearing about is that it was like his head frozen.
Yeah.
Like they just like it's just like his decapitated head frozen away.
Yeah.
I remember hearing that. I don't know anything else because I'm kind of stupid.
All I know is what you were telling me last night, but I'll let you take it away.
I think I passed out, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, you were just.
So there was this thing where how Walt Disney, he wanted to live forever. So there was this whole like rumor going on, like, oh, he wanted to live forever, so that's why he either had his whole body or just his head be frozen, and for then later to be thawed out and then be brought back to life. And
Although you'd think if it was just his head frozen, that like wouldn't be possible unless he's
Yeah.
just like expecting science to be that advanced when he gets.
I mean,
Unfrozen.
it could be that advanced, because then they could sew him onto a different person's body. Frankenstein it, dude.
Or just like take his brain out or something.
yeah.
Which, that's such a popular thing in, like, sci-fi, is, like,
Yeah.
having a head on, like, a robot, or, like, a brain in a fish tank.
Yeah.
Do you know how many times I have seen that?
A lot.
But there's this saying where his frozen body was in the Pirates of the Caribbean ride at Disneyland.
That's...
Don't know why.
That's like
why?
oddly specific.
Did somebody, like, find
I
it?
don't know why it was the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, but I think there was this like one like I think someone said that his favorite ride was Pirates of the Caribbean, like ride before like the movies came out.
I mean, you'd think it would like be more they'd put his body more like in a spot that's more secure than that.
So they made the movie Frozen for it as a cover-up, because before then there'd be like articles saying, oh, he's frozen, but then right as the movie came out, like, you have to like start actually digging
Yeah, you'd
down
like go up on
deep.
You'd like go to Google and you'd look up like Walt Disney Frozen, and before the movie it was like you'd get all these articles about like the theory, and then after it came out, and now it's just all about the movie Frozen, Elsa, Anna.
It's like they could have made it like the title.
Car noises.
They could have made the title like literally anything, but they decided to do it
Ice.
Walt Disney Frozen. And it was just pretty much a cover up to like, because their thing was protecting their family friendly brand, because Walt Disney like used to smoke at like the parks. So that's why like a lot of his like video, like the photos that he has that are taken of him, the cigarettes are actually like photoed, like shopped out and like edited out, because they want to protect that family-friendly brand.
Disney is whack though, so I don't think they're too above that.
That's really all I have for Walt Disney
Speaking
being Frozen.
about cover-ups.
Speaking about cover-ups
And Frozen!
Yeah, and Frozen.
The
Titanic.
We're so good at this.
We're great at transitions, guys. So I remember hearing about this theory, maybe about like a year ago or whatever, but there's a theory out there that the Titanic didn't actually sink. Obviously a ship did sink and people did die.
But it wasn't
Not that it's just a completely different ship that they were saying was a Titanic, but the actual Titanic in itself, the original Titanic didn't sink,
OG.
is the belief. So obviously, it sank 1912, a hot minute ago. Well, like, in the early 1900s, the company that had made the Titanic, the White Star Line, they had, like, I think it was, like, the top, like, 4 ships, like, passenger ships at the time. They were really speedy and really nice. But then this other company came in and made, like, two other big passenger ships that were faster than the White Star Line's ships, and they did not like that. They didn't like that. So they were like, we're gonna make this line of ships called the Olympic class ships, and they're gonna be better, they're gonna be faster, they're gonna be more luxurious and all that. And those 3 ships, in order of what was made first, was the Olympic, followed by the Titanic, and then the Britannic.
Lovely.
Yep. So the Olympic, obviously, that is what they're all named after, was the first one that was made. It went on a few voyages, but actually on the 5th voyage, it crashed with the Hawk, which was a military vessel, and they found that, they went to, like, court or whatever, and the Olympic was the reason for it. The Olympic got blamed for the crash because it kind of was their fault. They took, like, a really sharp turn or whatever, and the Hawk didn't know they were there, so they just went, bah!
Damn.
But the Olympic was able to make it back to, like, port and stuff. And that is all, like, believed to be true. That's, like, generally accepted as truth.
Yes.
And this is where, we get into the conspiracy bit of it. So at this point, there are, like, claims that the Olympic was, like, an economic disaster, at least to the company. The lawsuit meant that repairs would not be covered by insurance, and it obviously isn't making any money just sitting in the dock.
Right.
Not having anybody go on it and stuff. So they believe that the company decided to switch the Olympic and Titanic out. Like, from here, there's, like, 2 kind of, it, like, splits off into, like, 2 things. The first one is that the true Olympic would go through an accident under the name of the Titanic, allowing the White Star Line to collect an insurance payment while the original Titanic would have lived on. But, you know, the iceberg is about, like, all it said on that specific split. I'm not sure if they mean, like, the Titanic did actually sail out and they hadn't swapped them yet.
Because from my knowledge is that the first boat already had like malfunctions, and that's like they like had so many people on it, and that's why they're like, oh, we're just gonna give it out because it's on its last life.
Yeah, so that they could get like insurance money and stuff. And then there's the second split that JP Morgan, who was like involved with the company that made the boats and stuff, that he was actually behind the switch to drown his many enemies that were aboard the Titanic at the time of its sinking. Because I remember when I first learned about it, they like I can't list them off the top of my head, but there was like multiple like big people, well-known people at the time that were known to be like JP Morgan's kind of enemies.
Oh, well, I know there's like a lot of people, but I think specifically the creator of the Hershey's chocolate.
That's what I was gonna say.
Supposed to be on the boat, but he's like, no.
Some things that are like actually true is that, or at least one thing that's actually true, is that the Titanic didn't allow for public examination before its voyage. The theory goes that if they had allowed for examination, that people would have been like, hey, this isn't the fucking Titanic.
You're lying.
The Titanic had 14 portholes, but the Olympic had 16, so when you look at pictures of like the Titanic like sank, or even like before its voyage, you can count how many portholes, and there's 16 there. But the way that it's like the way that they combat it is that supposedly the Titanic had 2 more portholes added like later on. But another thing with the windows is that the Titanic had evenly spaced windows, while the Olympic supposedly had unevenly spaced windows.
That's such like a tiny detail.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what
I think it's ironic, honestly, because when they were advertising it and everything, when they were advertising the Titanic, it was just like the sink that couldn't be sunk. The sink that couldn't be sunk.
The sink that couldn't be sunk.
The ship that couldn't be sunk, you know? Like, they were just like, yeah, no, there's, like, it literally can't sink. It's impossible.
Yeah.
And then, it fucking sinks.
Iceberg said, alright, bet.
Iceberg heard that and thought of it as a challenge.
Like,
Just
I
super
totally
ironic.
believe this, like, the Titanic didn't actually sink. I totally believe that.
I think it's fully possible.
I think it could go either way.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a cover up. I think it could be like a different ship that sank, and they just told us it was the Titanic, and the Titanic's like completely fine. But also, I believe it could have actually happened.
Because I mean, what if anyone like the public actually found out? That would put the company in a lot of trouble, because they knowingly put out a bad ship,
A faulty ship that was basically destined to crash, and that was like, you know, the entire.
Because obviously,
life of the
if you go back to the point, the like, if JP Morgan was behind the switch to drown his many enemies, that would mean that it was on purpose.
Yeah.
which would have been murder.
Murder.
I was trying to think of the manslaughters, and I couldn't figure out which one it was.
Murder. Being about fake.
Speaking of fake and minor details.
The birds work for the bourgeoisie.
Birds are also fake.
This seems to be a common theme.
That's literally what I have the title. That's actually also what the website's called, I think. It's like birds aren't real or something.
It also falls in with Glitch in the Matrix.
Yeah. Their cover-up story for this is incredible, by the way. The amount of detail they went in to make this sound possible.
Yeah, because this theory, like, really got popular, like, 2020, COVID time. Everyone on TikTok was like, haha, birds work for the bourgeoisie, haha, that's funny. They're, like, NPCs.
Yeah.
They, like, don't have their own thought process. They're kind of stupid. And then the site took it a little far.
Well, because originally what it was like a fake conspiracy theory to prove how gullible people are, and just like wow, people are dumb. Let's come up with something completely fake, not real at all, and see how many people we can get to believe it. Anyway, a lot of people believe it. So I have like a portion of the story, but like it goes like way, way, way into detail on the website. Like they could write an entire book off of it if they really wanted to, and like they come up with like actual legitimate shit that could have happened. So apparently it starts in 1959. They came up apparently with a plan. No, the plan started on May 6th of 1957, allegedly. Some dude working for like the CIA or some shit.
Some federal agent.
Met up with an unidentified man at some airplane company and ordered 120 like bomber planes.
Jesus Christ.
That's a lot.
Because what he wanted to do was he wanted to kill all the birds and replace them with the drones. Essentially what a drone is now, with like a camera so they could spy on the people, because it was like when they're like, communism, it's so bad.
Communism.
It was
Jump scare.
It was like during that time when they were like really worried about their like society turning communist, and so they're like, let's just replace every single bird with a drone so we can spy on the people so we know they're not turning communist. Which is like such a stupid thing to do in the first place. Like, imagine.
Honestly, I wouldn't put with the way our government is now, I wouldn't put it past them.
And so
they're a little stupid.
Allegedly, from the years 1959 to 1971, they killed and eliminated like 12 billion birds.
My lord.
And replaced them all with spy cameras that appear and act exactly like birds do, except they're not birds.
That's why the government can't pay back their debt. They're too busy killing off the birds.
Right?
And replacing them with drones. That's where all our funding went.
And so, like, they met up, and they're like, okay, here's the plan. We need this many bomber planes to kill off every single bird in America. Right? And the dude he met up with was just like, yeah, awesome, we can do that. Do you have the funding for it? And he's like, yeah, dude. Here you go. And they're like, okay.
Here you go.
And he's like, okay, nice. But we can't have them built here because it's like a town and shit. And they're like, we don't need people knowing what's going on. Mm-hmm. So let's build it somewhere else. Anyway, apparently they built it on Area 51.
All right.
They apparently built all 120 bombers on Area 51, and so they had the men travel there, the engineers that they were having work on it, and they had them travel there in an old school bus that they purchased from like a scrapyard or whatever in Washington.
Like in Washington.
And apparently they were spotted by some individuals bringing out couches and rugs. I don't know.
Wait, the people that spotted them were bringing out the couches and rugs, or the other people?
The other people that were going onto the bus. They were bringing couches and rugs onto the bus. And apparently they were also heard discussing really cool playlists to listen for the road trip.
Fuck.
It's so weird.
And so then they spent like 2 or 3 years or something building these bomber planes, which still is baffling. And they had like another page and a half on the details of how they built it and how long it took them to build certain parts of it and what it was used for and all of that shit, but I was lazy.
I know.
Apparently after they were done constructing the bombers, they sent the engineers working on it to Vietnam.
Alright.
Like during that war.
Oh.
You sent them to war.
In hopes that it would seal their fates.
Wow.
And then the survivors were apparently, they had kidnapped. And they just went missing.
And what, since then the birds have been fake?
And then, they had, the bombers have, like, water tanks on them, but it's filled with a specially formulated bird poison. That once the birds consume them, because they would put them on their wings, and then, like birds groom themselves and stuff.
Training, yeah.
It was formulated so they would ingest it and then it would pass on to other birds. And it was sprayed from an altitude of 8,000 feet. And would like dissolve before it hit the ground so the humans wouldn't come into any danger. But it would still hit the birds at some point in time. And a single drop of it, if it hit the bird's feathers, the virus would like take control over and go into the bloodstream. It would affect the bone structure in a way that it would like just decompose within the span of 24 hours. Like the bird would just no longer exist in 24 hours, which is why there was apparently never any bodies found of all of these 12 billion birds, which is still just fucking nuts. And then that's all I have written, but there's more to it that is actually just nuts.
Yeah. Share with us.
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to go and think.
Use your brain.
Go sit in the corner and think.
I'm trying. And then they called that operation "Watering the Country."
Looks, they're like
they're
going
spraying
over
it.
And
And then the government, like the actual government, like the president and shit at the time, they're like, "The fuck is going on? What are you doing? What is this watering the country you're doing?" And they're like, "We're just watering the grass.
From bomber blades.
We're just watering the grass. That's all we're doing. That's it. Just watering the grass. Not replacing birds with robots." Anyway, apparently the president believed him enough.
In this theory.
I guess. I don't know what's going on anymore. And then, it didn't have it on the site, but there is a site somewhere that, like, went into detail over, like, what certain birds did. So, like, hummingbirds had a specific job, ravens and, like, seagulls had a specific job. Like, every single tiny, minuscule bird had, like, an important job, and they would, like, report it or whatever. And apparently, this is my favorite one. Apparently, hummingbirds were apparently replaced with, assassin drones.
So I should be worried about the hummingbirds around my house.
Yes.
Oh, my mom's attracting them by putting out hummingbird food.
I know,
a
right?
Hummingbird feeder.
Because apparently, you know,
work
like,
for
they're
Mom works for the bees.
because, like, their, like, beaks or whatever are, like, so long. And apparently, if, they, like, it's, like, allegedly, like, a needle or something that injects you with poison. And, like, it kills you, and they, like, have a list of people, and allegedly these people get attacked by hummingbirds.
Alright.
Anyway.
How these birds have never rusted.
Speaking about being attacked.
And the government.
The government hiding stuff up.
Covering stuff up.
Covering stuff up. I can speak.
We all can speak.
Mm-hmm.
Rah, rah, rah.
Princess Diana's murder.
We're going from U.S. government to British government.
Yeah.
You guys know anything about her murder?
A bit. A little bit.
I know
No.
I know.
I know some. I know a little bit.
So, Diana, you know, she died in a car crash
Yeah.
in 1997. And Paris, she died along with her, alleged fiancé, or the person she was seeing, which was Dodie Fade. And on the night of the accident, he was actually supposed to propose to her. And he was, like, I forget, like, what kind of, like, royalty he was, but he was, like, Muslim and it's, like, Egyptian, something like that. I don't want to be wrong. But, obviously the royal family was like, no, we don't want this. And
well, I think it's also with, like, the royal families, like, you can't remarry or whatever unless the person you were married to, like, dies.
yeah. Because, like, what is it, Camilla and Charles, they're like, oh, we can't marry until, like, you know, Diana's dead.
So she's out of the picture.
Yeah. And, like, there was actually a letter, like, I think saying, like, yeah, my ex-husband is gonna kill me, that she wrote.
Yeah, it's very, like, popular in the theory that she knew.
Yeah.
Because I think there's pictures, like, paparazzi pictures or whatever, of her, like, before she was getting into the car.
Oh, yeah.
And it, like, she's very, like,
because, like,
not having it.
No, definitely not.
Which, like, fuels that theory that, like, she knew, because she's kind of, like...
on edge.
Yeah.
Because she, like, there are pictures out there saying, like, she actually took 2 different cars, and the license plate, they're both different.
Yeah.
One, the license plate is yellow, the other one's black.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, obviously try to hide from the paparazzi, but that didn't really work. They're saying how the paparazzi, it was their fault, and also, you know, the driver was drunk, apparently. But, the main one is basically the paparazzi, because they were flashing the driver, which is not a really good...
The vision goes...
Well, yeah.
I don't know if this is something you're going to talk about, but I heard that, like, the brake line or whatever was cut, so, like, the brakes couldn't work. I think my dad told me.
But when the...
No, guys, it was John Mulaney.
But, when it...
If you know, you know.
But when the crash happened, there was, like, cameras everywhere, but there was, like no, like, video evidence of the crash actually happening.
That's whack.
That is...
yeah.
That's kind of... that's awfully suspicious.
And she was treated at the scene for an hour and not immediately rushed to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like...
Which I think...
Kind of like they were waiting it out instead of...
But also I think with some injuries and in certain situations like that, a lot of the times they're told not to right away, because if it was, like, done on purpose, especially with, like, bombings, they're told, like, first responders don't leave the site or don't go to the site until there's a second bombing or, like, a second incident, because typically the first bombing is just, like, a distraction, and then the second one's the real one, and those are meant for the first responders.
Yeah, but
so
like,
they could have been told not to.
You may think, like, oh, it's
well, it's
royalty.
not that they didn't. It's not that they didn't get there right away. It's that when they did get there, they didn't take her to the hospital.
Which
No.
they could have been told not to.
Because, like, you'd expect, like, of someone of royalty, they'd immediately rush her to the hospital.
You would think so.
You'd think
and
that.
Yeah, it's kind of stupid that they did that, but also in some cases.
Because, you
they
know,
don't
obviously
have to.
she was treated inside the ambulance, but... And my thing was, is, like, it took them an hour to get to the hospital. Like, they drove slowly.
That's fucked.
And the hospital was, like, not even, like, 3 miles away.
That's really fucked.
So, like, they drove to, like, a completely different hospital.
Well, what I think's even, like, if someone is dead, like, you still have to, like, take them to the hospital and that.
Yeah, so, like, you would, like, pronounce them actually dead.
Mm-hmm. So, like, it could have been she died in the ambulance, and then obviously they're not rushing to the hospital because she's already dead.
But were the lights on or not?
I don't know.
Because typically when somebody dies and they're in the thing, they turn the lights off so people know.
Yeah.
Which is why if you see an ambulance and they're like, even if they're rushing, if they don't have lights on, because when they get there they're supposed to have lights on, and then when they leave they're supposed to have lights on.
That's why with, like, this is, like, completely off topic, but, like, with Michael Jackson's death, like, that's why, like, you'd see, like, a video of, like, you know, the lights flashing, and then, like, it immediately turning off, and then once he gets to the hospital, you see someone leaving the ambulance. That's why people still think he's alive. Anyways, going back to Diana. Yeah, no, there is a whole, I don't know, I want to say more, but I don't know what else to say.
You're always being lied to by the government.
The government loves to cover stuff up.
They do.
The government loves to lie to the public.
Moral of the story, don't trust your local government.
Words are fake.
What's the
Australia's fake.
What's the one TikTok audio? It's like,
The government
they
wouldn't
don't
do that.
Oh, yes,
Yes,
they would. And it's like, kind of fucked up. It's like,
It is so kind of fucked.
Because
honestly,
there are, what is it? There's a video that people have, like, made of, like, what the crash would look like, because I don't know why the cameras didn't capture anything. It's like,
at least a picture, you would think.
yeah. Like, I mean, obviously they're, like, pictures, like, you know, paparazzi taking them, but it's like, wouldn't the paparazzi, like, oh, there was also, like, what is it, her bodyguard was also in the, car, and apparently he had, like, no memory of it, like, anything happening, like, at all. So unless...
So maybe he, like, helped.
Yeah. Or, I mean, to be fair, it could be, like, a trauma response kind of thing. When you go through stuff like that, sometimes your brain just genuinely represses it.
Or he also could have been told not to say anything.
Yeah.
That too.
Or, like, the queen was like, don't say anything. Like maybe he was actually part of the plan. Because I'm pretty sure she was also wearing her seatbelt, and that would have saved her from, like, collision. Because, like, if you don't have your seatbelt, obviously you're going to go, like...
Oh, was she in the front or was she in the back?
She was in the back.
So on that wouldn't have really mattered a whole lot.
Yeah. Even if she didn't... I mean, she did have severe injuries. But, like, obviously...
Obviously, she had severe injuries. She fucking died.
Yeah, really. But she would have, like, still survived. But they probably, like...
I mean, not always. It
not
depends.
Always. Like, maybe, like, she probably, like, survived for, like, a good, like...
If they got to the hospital on time?
Yeah, if
they didn't take an hour to get to the hospital?
Maybe, like, during that hour time span she did. Because it took, like, what, like, 24 minutes? Not even, to get to that hospital. It's, like...
So what you said, it was probably, like, 3 miles?
Yeah.
I live farther from my house to your guys' house is more than 3 miles.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I think.
And you get to my house in, like,
15 minutes. And that's with traffic, normal traffic, like, 25 speed limit.
Without the blaring sirens.
Yeah. And the ability to go through stoplights and, like, stop signs and all that.
Yeah. So, in hours,
maybe
no
the British government or the Queen actually got rid of the footage. I mean, they
also could have been told not to release it.
Yeah. I mean,
could have been threatened.
There's always some times where they have cameras and the cameras usually aren't on. That's why, like, a lot of stores have, like, cameras that they're not really on.
Mm-hmm.
They're just there to scare people.
To prevent theft, which also just never works.
Yeah.
Don't believe shit. Question everything.
Because, like, with a lot of, like stars, like celebrities, people think, like, a lot of them are still alive. There's people out there that thinks Elvis is still alive. Anyways, that is our conspiracy theories, and the computer's about to die.
You didn't need to bring that up. That's what we've got for conspiracy theories.
Do you
believe them? Let us know. If you would like feedback is welcome.
We have an email.
Yeah.
We do have an email. It's in the description.
I forgot what the email was.
That's why it'll be in the description.
Email. The Swagcast.
You could also mayhaps give us topics to talk about. Or if you want us to do another conspiracy theory episode, you could give us some conspiracy theories.
There's so many conspiracy theories out there.
There's a lot. This has been the Swagcast.
Whoa.
We hope we were entertaining enough for you.
I'm Gray.
I'm Cha0tic.
And I'm Ultra.
And we'll see you on
This is the Choco Sandwich Podcast.
No! And we'll see you on the flip side.